What is up, everybody? I'm No Lux Given, back with more Demon Bluff, and today I'm going to try a Demon Bluff slow run. What is a slow run? I don't know. I just made it up. I thought this would be a fun idea for a video for a few reasons. So what I'm going to do here is a speed run sans the whole speed aspect of it. I'm basically just going to be playing Demon Bluff, but there are some different considerations that you make while speedrunning that I think are interesting, but people haven't been reacting the best to my speedrunning content. So I think that they want a little bit more of an analytical approach to the game, which I understand if that's why people typically watch me. So the goal of this is to provide that, but also just show a little bit of a different way to play Demon Bluff, because I don't think that playing Demon Bluff in this way is necessarily worse, that it's a step down. It's just a step different. There's different puzzles that you have to figure out while speedrunning Demon Bluff that I think can also be interesting mental exercises. And that's why I am a fan of it, and I think this could make for a fun video. I am going to run the timer here. Not that it's going to mean anything. We are just going to have that. You know what? The timer's really just here so that I can use this in the thumbnail for clickbait, if I'm being totally honest. I will also be using this video sort of to tutorialize how to speedrun if you're interested in doing it, and to cover a few just like ground rule things. One thing that I do have to bring up is that when you are in the first village of the first Ascension, you will get some pop-ups. The very first tutorialized pop-up card here, you can actually completely ignore. You can click on any of the cards and not worry about clicking close on this little pop-up, but then you will get two more pop-ups and you will have to click close on both of those. And just bringing this up in case you decide you would like to speedrun. I'll talk a little bit more about the pop-ups in just a moment, because there's three more, I believe, that there are 6 in total. And just knowing that the pop-ups are going to come up can be beneficial for like the speedrunning purpose, and it's a big thing in these first Ascensions. The main thing I would say that I change up compared to when I normally play Demon Bluff is that when I normally play, I always start with number 1, just because that's the lowest number and it makes sense in my head. But in speedrunning Demon Bluff, you don't need to start there, because you kind of just want to start like whatever is already the closest to your mouse to begin with, so that way you can just flip things over as quick as possible. Okay, all of that stuff out of the way, let's get to solving. In the first 3 villages, maybe the first 4, I believe the first 3 villages, all that we need to find is the minion, which means that any cards that point at another card and say that it's good are just telling the truth. So we already have it narrowed down to 3. It's either, well, it's not 3. It's either 2, 5, or 4. Gave that information in a weird order there, like an old empress. But because we have narrowed it down to 3, we just need to get rid of one of these remaining cards. Let's say we flip this one, and now we have it down to 2. It either, well, we have it down to 2 cards, either 2 or 4, and we know it can't be 5 because the hunter is not pointing at them. It could be that the hunter is lying, or it could be that the hunter is actually pointing at an evil, and either way, now that we have ourselves a 50-50, we can just kill both of them. There will be one more pop-up when we select the dagger, and there will be another pop-up here if we're wrong, but because we are right, that pop-up is going to be delayed to a little bit later, and we will have one final pop-up right about here, usually. Where is it? I'm just going to flip over just to get the pop-up out of the way. Oh, we actually didn't get the pop-up on this village. Okay, well, fair enough. Not going to follow like the exact speedrunning procedure that I normally would have. Normally I would have flipped over 3 and then 2. That would have told me 3 is good, and then I would have went to 4, and then I can just immediately kill 4, and that's fairly straightforward there. I was trying to clear out the remaining pop-up. We do get it here, though. We find a judge, and now we're done with the pop-up. No, I'm sorry. There's still one more pop-up because we haven't gotten a card wrong yet. So there will be one more pop-up when we get something wrong, or it will show up in village number 4 regardless, right? I don't think we've gotten anything wrong. Yeah, we've won all of our 50-50 so far. So we see this judge up here next. I will just see if it's talking the truth about the next card. It says yes, so we can skip that and continue to move along here until we find a hunter. This hunter is pointing at a wretch only 2 seats away from it. So again, the hunter is going to be evil. These are fairly easy puzzles, I think, to get us started. And now in Village 4, we're gonna take it up a level here, because now with 2 evils, we can't just 50-50 each puzzle, because if there's 2 50-50s, then we might wind up losing, because if we lose both 50-50s, we would have to restart. So we will need to look for slightly different clues here. And normally, at least I would say for the next 3 villages, we are looking for 2 pieces of information that are kind of together. And we're looking for a pair of characters. But if we find a trio of characters, then they're kind of off the hook. Empress, I put it out of my mind because it's just a little bit too much to unpack. There's a lot of different permutations that an Empress could be talking about, and it really doesn't tell us too much of anything. It basically tells us one of these 4 cards is evil, and I'd like to find some more concrete information here before I really dive in too deep. We'll see if the judge is having anything to say about number 4. He says 4 is telling the truth, so we're going to keep it going along. 5 is a real confessor. So up until this point, it could have been that these 2 were in a pair with each other, right? I mean, not because of the Empress information, but now it's a trio. Now we have the judge saying that the medium is correct and the medium saying that the confessor is correct, which kind of just implicates the 3 of these things together, meaning that they are all just good. We can continue to move along here and find a jester. A jester's even worse than an empress, to be totally honest, because you have to click it and then you've got to click the 3 things that you want to select. It can be very powerful information for solving the puzzle, but to be honest, I usually just ignore it if I can. Enlightened is a great one to try to investigate into in a number of ways and really care about. Here we have all of these cards as bad, but it could, or as good, but it could just be that the Enlightened is pointing at this jester immediately sat next to it. We'll continue to flip. Ooh, the fact that this Enlightened is sitting next to a wretch means its time is up. This is the minion, and I think I had meant to say this, but this final pop-up will either show up whenever you make your first wrong guess, because then you have to keep going and actually find the minion, or it will show up here in Village 4 when you kill anything and then have to kill something else because there's 2 evils here. So that will be our final pop-up. This lever saying 2 evils adjacent. Well, now we have a 50-50. This is why I didn't bother with the jester. Does not matter what the jester says. Either this lover is evil and lying about being sat next to 2 evils, or this empress is evil and this lover is correct. And there's only one way to find out. Let's stab the empress and just win all of our 50-50s here. Looking good, looking good. Again, we are looking for a pair of characters. So we are finding that 6 is the real Empress. If this was one of the first 3 villages, I would have now avoided this card number 6 and just begun flipping up other cards so that I could try to find something that looked like a liar. But now that this says this is the real Empress, I'm going to take a look and I'm going to see where this is going. If this Empress is pointing, oh no, this is an Empress. Oh, I hate that. Okay, well, at the very least, this Empress is not pointing back at seat 4. We could stab this Empress and just figure out if their information is good. We could also flip 2, 5, and 8 and look for the wretch specifically. But this hunter now pointing at this evil team, this is going to be a 50-50, and it's probably a 50-50 that I will like to investigate. So what we can do is we can use the judge and say that this hunter is telling the truth. So now we have our evil team. Either this is our evil team, or this is our evil team. We actually know it can't be this one, so it is always going to be the medium and the Empress here. The reason it can't be the other one is because then this Empress would have 2 evils in their information. So had to be that one, and I think that's a great example of trying to find pairs of characters and just investigating in that direction. Now we get the Witch, which is not really a big deal. Most of the puzzles up until this point we've solved with having cards unflipped. The Bombardier is added now, so that could be a little bit spooky. We could have a face-down Bombardier and a fake Bombardier that's face-up, but you know, no matter. We find a knight here. I'll just stab it because my pen is close enough to it. We get a real Bombardier in seat 1, so this is potentially the evil team. Or they're just both good. Seems fine to me. Let's keep flipping. The Lover says 1 evil adjacent to me, and we have our second Empress. So we do have a double claim, which actually clears these two. Because one of these 2 Empresses has to be evil, so we know now that it is not this pair of characters. What we could do is we could use this Judge to check this Empress. We learn that this Empress is telling the truth, so it's either both of these 2, or it is both of these 2. I think, at this point. But because this Empress is telling the truth, or at least we think they are, we will stab this one first, and when this one turns out to actually be the one telling the truth, we'll change our mind and take out the Judge as well. Now we've got the Ba, and honestly, this doesn't really change the puzzle too much. We learn about a Judge. We can use the Judge on 8 immediately. I usually find that that's fine to do, but your mileage may vary. You could save the Judges if you want to. It can be a pretty powerful tool at your disposal. Enlightened pointing at 6, and the medium in 6 pointing at 2. So right now, 2 and 6 are, I tend to just look for mediums, honestly, and stab into those while I'm speedrunning. That would satisfy the Hunter. The Hunter is also pointing at a Dizzy Confessor, and there's no corruption left in the game. Yeah, that one's going to give it away for free. We will have a slight reprieve for the first village of Ascension 2. There is only a Witch. So once again, we are kind of going to backpedal into how we were solving some of those initial puzzles here. Oh, I do get to do a split there. Almost forgot that we were speedrunning and splitting and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we will basically just be looking for the odd one out, and here's the odd one out here. Medium, also good in 1 evil puzzles. If a medium ever points to itself, then it's lying. I think you can quote me on that. I've heard a commenter say it, and it feels true to me, because a medium that's telling the truth could point to any of these. A medium that is lying can literally only point to itself. I do think that they should make good mediums occasionally point to themselves, but in this scenario, we know that this is not a real medium. That's just going to be the Witch, I think. I didn't know that, but I felt pretty confident. I do believe. Now we have a Poisoner, and we also have a Bard, and the Bard could potentially help inform us of where the Poisoner is. I feel like usually the Bard is not corrupted. Maybe that's like a tutorial thing just to kind of ease you into it, because this Bard actually does not mean anything. The Poisoner could be in seat 3, 5, or 7, poisoning 6 or 4, or it could also be in seat 8 or 2, poisoning the Bard, or this could just be the Poisoner, at which point it's lying, or it could be the Witch lying about where the corruption is. So really, we haven't learned anything other than the Poisoner is not specifically in seat 4 or seat 6 unless this is the Witch. And then this information will still look corrupted, so this information will look good. Like I said, a lot of ambiguity there. The Hunter telling us they are 2 cards away from an evil. Again, this could be a Poisoner, but I do generally like to trust Hunters or stab the Hunter. Because if you stab the Hunter, then you learn if they're corrupted or not. Whereas if you try to stab into the Hunter's information, you might just miss and the other one is evil. But this Hunter is telling us that, well, these cards are either good or specifically the poisoner poisoning the hunter, but this can never be the poisoner unless this is also the witch. Okay, sure. I'm not speedrunning right now. I've definitely slowed it down in terms of trying to tutorialize some of the stuff that I'm doing, but I do think we should pick up the pace a little bit just for, you know, the runtime of it all. This knight is not corrupted according to either bard, and one of these two bards has to be bad because there are two of them. So that's nice. We can always stab the knight. The knight is good. This hunter could be poisoned from this bard. Or this bard could be pointing at this hunter. No, that is what I just said. Okay. I think that would be my first inclination here. So let's try that. No, that's the bard. All right, well, that does allow us to do two things. One, it allows us to kill this poisoner. We now also know that this slayer has to be corrupted. Because this confessor is good and not corrupted, this slayer has to be corrupted yet good. So we'll keep it at that. This empress is pointing at 5, 6, and 8. I'm marking all of those good, just so that way we can see what else is left outstanding. And it is actually just the hunter. I don't think that I had put that together immediately, but maybe I could have, if I wasn't distracted and like doing commentary, just realized that there were either two scenarios. One of these bards was evil, corrupting corrupting, or this was just evil and the hunter was wrong, right? There's actually a chance they were both evil and this was the poisoner corrupting this. Yeah, that was probably still possible as well. All right, let's keep moving along here. I do think I want to pick up the pace a little bit just so that way we can fit all of this in a video. I mean, this took me 6 minutes or 7 minutes to do one time. I'm sure we can wrap it up and fit it all into a video, even if we have to speed run the final Ascension. So maybe there is still some speed running left to go. I just flipped over all of those cards without really thinking about what was going on, but this lover and this knitter could technically be in a pair with each other, because if they are both evil, that would make both of their information incorrect, so they could be evil together. However, once you add in a third piece of corroborating information, then they all just have to be good. So this is the good team. Somewhere along here is the evil team, and yep, let's just use the Slayer. If the Slayer cannot kill, we're going to kill the Slayer. And then what do we want to do? Well, it doesn't matter. We've got a 50-50, so we'll stab both of them. And it turns out that was indeed our minion. Now we have a Plague Doctor and an Alchemist. We flip over the Plague Doctor first. Then we flip over the Bombardier, and this is something that I've been doing in my speedruns because it is very, very quick to check. A Bombardier, as an outcast, can never be corrupted. If this Plague Doctor tells us that this Bombardier is corrupted, then the Plague Doctor is lying. If they tell us that number 2 is not corrupted, that's because number 2 is actually just one of our minions. So we'll stab there. We now learn that number 3 or 8 is a witch, and with that, we almost have a 50-50. There's a chance that this is Plague Doctor corrupted, but I'm going to stab it. If it is correct information, then we just get to kill the witch. It is corrupted information, so that might have been a little bit hasty, but now we found out, well, where our Plague Doctor corruption is going to. That means that this hunter, okay, this hunter's telling the truth. That means that number 7 is always good. I'll flip it over. Number 6 could be evil. Okay, we've got another 50-50 here. Hopefully we can figure it out. Number 2 is the real Bombardier. Well, no. You are in a pair with the evil team. You're in cahoots, so you gotta go. Now we get the Counselor. Counselor comes in after the Witch and Poisoner. That's interesting. And we've got 2 outcasts, and we also potentially have a doppelganger. So this is a definite step up, I would say. We've got a judge, a fortune teller, a knight, a bombardier, a bombardier. Okay, one of these bombardiers gotta go. And potentially even both of them could have to go. But if both are the evil team, then they're not set next to a doppelganger. So it can't be both of the bombardiers ever. Let's stab the knight. Wow, okay, that was a freebie. So I think here we simply have to... Well, doesn't it always have to be one of these two? Wait, no. Oh, right. Oh my gosh, we have 3 outcasts. That's the piece of the puzzle I was missing. We do have a doppelganger, we do have a plague doctor, and we do have a bombardier. We can't have 2 bombardiers, of course, so we do know that one of these 2 bombardiers is the counselor, which is... Sorry, we know that one of these 2 bombardiers is the counselor, which is creating the other bombardier. I was just thinking about what I want to do for the rest of this puzzle. I think there's a few ways to solve it. We could use the plague doctor to try to find the plague doctor corruption. We could use the judge to try to find out which of these 2 bombardiers might be lying. The problem is, if we use this judge and we select this bombardier, I know that we have this lover's information, but like, what if, well, they can't both be plague doctor corrupted, I suppose. So this would be one way to do it. We could see that number 6 is lying and learn that this one is the counselor. That means that one of these 2 fortune tellers is the corrupted one. Let's see which one. False. Okay, so this is our plague doctor corruption. That's fine. That's going to tell me that 6 is evil. There were a number of ways to get to this solution. I just wanted to show one other way to get to this solution. We know that all of these cards are good. We just don't know if this is the corruption. Say we already had used the plague doctor for whatever reason, and I'm just doing this for, I'm sorry, lover, you're being sacrificed here for science just to demonstrate a point. If we stab this lover, we will see that they are not corrupted, which means their information is true, which means they are sat next to the counselor. Apologies. I know some people don't like it when I do that, but I do think that it's interesting to just see some different ways to potentially solve these puzzles. That really is the point of this video. There's a lot of different ways to solve puzzles in Demon Bluff, and one thing that I find fascinating is just like exploring these different angles. Now that I'm a little more seasoned at playing the game, the first time I ran through the first 3 Ascensions in my first video, I beat the first 2 Ascensions and then I died trying to complete the 3rd Ascension, and I believe that that video was about an hour and 20 minutes, and now I can do that whole thing without losing in 7 minutes, which I think is pretty incredible in terms of, how much we've improved in the past few months. Definitely exciting there. And yeah, now I just like to mix it up and kind of stretch the brain muscle and see what other ways these puzzles can get solved. We potentially have a drunk or a plague doctor. We might just have a wretch, though. If we just have a wretch, this is correct. There is no way that an alchemist could cure 2. This could be corrupted, but I'm just going to stab it. It's just easy to get it out of the way. This hunter is now correct. We see a plague doctor. Let's see if we find a wretch, though. We see a bard in a double claim with a plague doctor. That'll be fun. We find a judge, we find an empress, and we find a knight. It could be that both of these bards are lying. I'm going to stab the knight. Okay. Where do we go from here? Well, I think that this is a reasonable spot to go. Let's start marking things as good. All of these are good. Well, this is not good, obviously, but it satisfies the Empress's information, meaning that the Empress's information is sober, and the other 3 cards in that information are all good as well. Could be corrupted. This one isn't corrupted. This one could be corrupted. And it is 2 sat away from the bard. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, no. Yes. Okay. Took me a little bit. I'm in my own head slightly there. We do have a corrupted character. The corrupted character could be the drunk, though. this could actually be the drunk specifically. But if this is not specifically the drunk, it's evil, and I'm fine if we kill the drunk, we wind up killing the twin minion. That would mean that it's fairly likely this bard is pointing to this judge. However, we could still have a drunk, and the plague doctor is lying. All of these things are possible. I think I'll use the plague doctor to point at the judge. The only other scenario is this is the drunk. And then this is just the evil. Wait, no. This would be drunk regardless. Isn't this always the drunk? Oh, this could still be the drunk, right? Yeah, why not? I'll use the fortune teller on these two. Evil is true. I guess I could do this. Telling the truth. Okay. Are they corrupted? You're telling me they're not corrupted. The bard is corrupted. Right? I think in order for this not to be corrupted, the bard has to be corrupted. And no, this is the drunk, which means the bard is correct, which means the plague doctor is not actually our outcast. I did say that that was a possibility. I did not realize, oh, it says that they're not corrupted. Oh, right, because it's a liar. Okay, fair enough. I forgot. Sometimes the cards will lie to you. And, 50 videos in, we can still make some errors for sure. But it was a 50-50, I think, regardless there. I think that both of those outcomes were possible. And killing was the only way to get some information. Now on Village 7 of Ascension 2, we find our Puka, which is another next level, total game changer. We're looking for 3 pieces of misinformation in a row. Probably. Because of the plague doctor, or the witch, that could really only the plague doctor. It could be the plague doctor and then 2 pieces of misinformation. Could also be 4 pieces of misinformation in a row, because it could be the Puka, the 2 cards the Puka is corrupting, and then the card that the plague doctor is corrupting. With this board, it's actually kind of crazy. There's 9 cards here. 2 of them are evil. 3 of them could be corrupted, 1 could be an outcast, and 1 could remain unflipped. That's 7. Wow. That's borderline like we should just flip all information that we see. Let's see what happens. We find a Slayer, we find a Plague Doctor, we find a Jester, we find an Empress. Find a Gem Crafter saying 1 is good. If we need to flip most of our information, maybe 1 is bad, which is 2 away from the closest evil. We haven't seen a scout yet in this video. Typically, when I see a scout, I wait on that information until one of the evils is dead, just because it's a little bit tricky to figure out otherwise. Evils being adjacent to each other could satisfy the knitter, or they could just be not adjacent to each other. We do have a double claim. So I think the first thing that we actually want to do, especially when we've got a double claim of Slayers, is use one Slayer to kill the other, and use the first Slayer to kill the second. Neither could kill the other. That does imply a Puka could be close by. I feel like it could be Puka Minion or Puka Minion. But if 1 is good, and these 2 guys can't kill each other, I'm actually tempted to believe 1 is good and investigate here first. That's the witch. That'll allow me to flip up this final card. That's the knight. Might be the Puka. No, it is a corrupted knight. Wow, we took some damage there. But I think this Gem Crafter is actually Plague Doctor corrupted. 8 is evil, 5 is corrupted. Yeah, so that means that 1 is actually our Puka. Okay, a little bit scary there, but we were still able to solve it without looking too hard at too much of the information. I could tell you, though, once we flipped over this witch, 2 away being the scout meant that it was never the scout and probably going to be whatever was 2 seats away from the witch in the other direction. And evils are not adjacent to each other. I might have flipped that information once or twice in my head, double negative or whatever. We have now moved on to Ascension number 3, and we don't get a break here. We get to keep on playing with the Puka. No tiny board where we only get 1 evil. Alchemist cured 0 corruptions is incredibly powerful information because that is always true, which means this is never the Puka. The Knight. Okay, I was willing to have that be Puka corrupted, and then we learn what the rest of the puzzle is. You're telling me this is a real judge? I think this might be a real Puka. That's what I think. Then we also see a scout, the Puka 3 away. Yeah, this is also just Puka corrupted. Can't flip this over yet, which is awkward. And we haven't found our witch. So I think what I will do is use the Puka and see if this card is lying. You say that they're lying, which means they're telling the truth. So this is now a 50-50 between the medium and the scout. We will solve the 50-50 by stabbing both of them. Oh, it could be the bombardier. No way to know. Okay. Whew, definitely could have lost that one. Wouldn't have been too big of a deal. We're not worried about the clock here. I'm just caring about my pride, but I don't think there was any other way that we could have sorted that puzzle out by the end of it there. Number 1 is a real plague doctor. Oh, I should mention, now we have a shaman. So once the shaman is introduced, it's good that we don't also have the witch. Once the shaman is introduced, I typically start to flip over every single card. And the reason that I do that is that these 2 fortune tellers both have to be good. They could be corrupted, but because this is our only double claim, they just have to both be shaman-created villagers. So I like that. None of the other cards happen to point to them, which makes sense. We could use these, though, to point to anything else that we want to. The Bard is telling us that the Plague Doctor's a liar. I think I'll use the Plague Doctor on the Bombardier. You were telling me that 4 is corrupted, which means you are a liar. I showed the other way that that interaction can work, where you know that the Bombardier is lying. In this case, we knew it was the Plague Doctor. That actually means that the Bard is always correct. You're telling me 7 is good. That is always right. You are 1 away from the closest evil, and you're talking about a Plague Doctor that is actually a minion. Okay, took me a second to see that, but we were able to grab the solve there. Now we will see a Puppeteer Poisoner board. Puppeteer has tripped me up a few times. A Lover 2. I'm very curious if this lover is going to be corrupted or simply sat next to both evils. It's possible. Closest evil, equidistant. That feels crazy. In order for that to be correct, it's like the lover and seat 7. I'm going to kill into this, and we're going to learn that that is the puppet. That makes it make a lot of sense that this lover is saying 2. Well, that was lucky. They should be saying 1 because they are sat next to the puppet. We find the poisoner. We have found the puppeteer. We are ready to move on. That was, yeah, just pretty lucky. And now we get the dreamer introduced. Oh gosh, this is like a terrible thing to say. 4 cards away from the closest evil. That literally means that the only evil is 8. The only corruption is poison. I'm willing to kill this. If it's corrupted, well, they're sat next to the poisoner. It's not the wretch. There's our poisoner. Did not gain the information from this poisoner. It was a bombardier. That's why they didn't have any info. 4 or 8 is a puppet. We know it's not 4. It could be 8, but it could be that the oracle is lying. We're going to have to keep flipping. We do have a double claim here, but we could have a doppelganger. Yeah. Or... no? Yeah. These are right. Yeah, these are just right. That's the puppet. That's the puppeteer. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Now we have a witness, now that we have a few things that evils can affect. Number 3 is the real medium. Says the medium. What does this medium say? Number 2 is a real slayer. Okay. Sure. Let's keep on going. We can use this to investigate this. And now we know that this trio of cards is all good, sure. And let's see where we can go from here. We've got a jester, we've got a wretch, we've got a second jester, but we do have a shaman. Wait, but this is our pair. This is our pair, which means this could be a doppelganger, but the wretch is always good. So one of these jesters is bad, and this slayer is always bad here as well. That's the poisoner. This was poisoned, which means this is actually good, since we know that this information was good. And now it's just a 50-50 on the jesters. Not going to use them, just going to stab them. And we will find the shaman. Almost done. I think we are making pretty good timing here to finish off Ascension number 3. We've got a Ba, a shaman, and a twin minion. And a plague doctor or a drunk. Either way, some corruption. Doesn't really matter which way. 1 is good. We'll flip over number 1. 6 is good. We'll flip over number 6. This could be our shaman pair. Sure. Could be like 2 evil team members. We're probably going to have to flip over everything. Again, considering the shaman is in that village. The alchemist learns a 0. We have a knight. We have a pair of bishops. And we have a 3rd gem crafter. Well, I don't believe there's any way we could have a 3rd gem crafter. I will tell you this. We're looking for 3 evils. And a drunk. I think that this is possible. Evils are not adjacent to each other, though. So maybe this is a 50-50 and it's these 2? Maybe this is corrupted. This is our drunk. And it's these 3? I think that's what I would stab into first. I will stab the knight. It's not the drunk. I'll kill that gem crafter. I'm expecting this to be the Ba, and I'm expecting this to be the drunk, with this being our twin minion. Cool. Okay. We were able to solve it there without really... I did not look at the bishop information. You could have, and probably been, like, guaranteed, but I felt fairly confident with what we were doing, and now we will face our final puzzle. It is Lilith. I will say, there is a mistake that I tend to make almost every time, because you want to flip these things over as quickly as you can, right? After you make your first 3 flips, there is, when you are playing a Lilith board, a benefit of stopping here. If you have any activate effects, or if you have the potential opportunity to kill anything just from the information that you currently know. I don't really think that there is information that I could currently know. So, well, that's not true. We have 2 bards. One of them is saying no corrupted characters. There has to be a plague doctor because there's a counselor which has made a plague doctor. This could be plague doctor corrupted, but it could also just be evil. It's in a double claim. It's next to the plague doctor. There were a number of reasons to take that out there. And this bard now saying that they are 1 away from a corrupted character does kind of implicate that this information is corrupted but good. And that could be more useful to me than flipping over a random card. Flipping over a card and knowing it is corrupted could be good. Okay, I wind up getting a totally terrible card here because I hate the druid and it does nothing for me. We'll flip over the final 4 cards here now and see what we can solve. We are going to lose 2 more health, which means if we stab the corrupted knight, we would be in trouble. This could be an evil bard distracting us from the fact that this knight is corrupted over here. This wretch has to be good. This plague doctor has to be created by this counselor. We can mark these things for the time being. What else do we have to look at? Oh, Dreamer. Dreamer, we can actually use that to click on the counselor. They say the wrong thing. That's punishable by death. That's Lilith. And now we only have to kill 1 more thing. We really probably don't want to stab the knight before using the plague doctor. Oh, we could check this out. Right, sure. 7 is evil, 9 is corrupted. Looks good to me. That all checks out. So now at the very least, we know that this is the plague doctor corruption, and we don't have to worry about being afraid to stab the knight, and the knight is actually just the shaman. That is how you slow run Demon Bluff. It took me about 40 minutes, which is still an improvement over the first time I played the game, and I think a lot less mistakes. Hopefully that was enjoyable, both from just, you know, the analytical perspective that I typically offer on the channel. Like I said, my speedrunning videos haven't done as well as some of my other recent content. I do think that it is definitely worth watching my record run, though, and then I also broke it down, but you can just watch I think the problem is I wasn't really sure how to release the content. Maybe I should have just made a 6-minute video, but people like maybe watch the first 7 minutes of it and then close the video. So if you watch it, maybe just like let it run in the background, even if you don't care, just so that way, like the analytics or whatever, or you know what, do whatever makes you happy. I don't care, but hopefully this video made you happy. That is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Luck's Given. Peace.